Hi, and welcome to In Context. My name is Gus Cantivero. The United States military is busy fighting wars all over the world, and we have 700 foreign military bases. Yet we have glaring defense weaknesses here at home. Today, in particular, we're going to be discussing our coastal defense, and joining me to discuss this is our military affairs commentator, Marchand. Marchand, what is the situation with our coastal defense?
Well, the situation with our coastal defense is that we have none. In a nutshell, we have absolutely no coastal defenses. Mm-hmm. There are sonar nets, which were intact during the Cold War to prevent the Russian submarines from coming through up and down our coast, are in complete disrepair. Mm-hmm. So to speak of, we have absolutely no coastal defenses. And
where are we most vulnerable?
We're most vulnerable along our coastline. People tend to think that our coastline has been our greatest defense, but in reality, it was before the advent of the submarine and before the advent of transcontinental aircraft and bombers. Mm-hmm. Really, the fact that our coast is so vulnerable would allow the Russians or the Chinese to plop a submarine, ballistic missiles, and/or troops right onto our coastline without us ever realizing. I mean, we could feasibly have Chinese or Russian troops in New York City and never know what happened.
And this is a topic for another video, but we already know about our lack of EMP hardening, but kind of crossing over, we're going to talk about that later on, but that is a particular danger as a direct result of our lack of coastal defense, correct?
Absolutely. An EMP attack coming from specifically submarine-based, we would have about 30 seconds of warning before the bombs went off. And then by the time we realized what was happening, which we actually might not even realize what's happening. All we would know is major American cities were going dead. Mm-hmm. In fact, it would only take minimum two, at most three thermonuclear devices detonated in the upper atmosphere to completely wipe out all of the electronics in the entire continental United States. This means from LA to New York, absolute blackout. And the only things that are hardened against it are the Pentagon and the White House. That's it. So they can talk to each other, but the entire rest of the armed forces can't. Right. The civilian infrastructure, or civilian emergency services, for that matter.
Okay. Now, Russia has a naval base in Venezuela. They have a mutual defense treaty as well. Okay, and so explain the significance of them having a naval base down there, because we have bases all over the world, and this kind of sounds natural, but how is it significant given our weaknesses on the coast?
It's the same reason why we were worried about a Russian missile base in Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The only difference is most of the American people don't know that, everybody knew that the Russians were putting missiles in Cuba. Nobody knows that the Russians are putting ships in Venezuela. The problem is that instead of Russian submarines having to sail all the way from the Baltic to the East Coast and then back again, now they can sail, dock in Venezuela, resupply, rearm, refuel, and then go up our coast, down our coast, up and down, resupply, refuel, and then go back up and down our coast. They don't have to go all the way back to the Baltic, so it shortens that distance tremendously and allows them to keep a constant presence on our coast.
What do we need to do in order to build this up or to counteract the looming threats?
We would need to repair our sonar nets, a project that would be vastly expensive. Mm-hmm. We would need to harden our military and civilian infrastructure, which would actually be less expensive. According to estimates from EMP Attack America, it would only cost about $100 million to harden our military and emergency services against the EMP attack. And then, of course, investing in counter-submarine technology, other submarines, destroyers, and also, probably most importantly, setting up anti-missile systems along our coast, kind of similar to the Israeli Iron Shield, setting up Patriot missile systems along our coast, stationing ships and troops along our coast, so that if the Chinese decided, they have some massive submarines. The Russians have submarines the size of aircraft carriers. They could feasibly land a division-size element on our east coast, or by extension the west coast if it were the Chinese. If our military is not prepared to react, we could face an invasion, and we wouldn't be able to respond. Once the enemy has a foothold, that's it. They're driving inland and the war's lost.
Right. Well, this is definitely a scary proposition. This is the first in a series. We're going to be covering this in much more detail going forward. We hope that you'll join us. Please find us on incontextreport.com. Subscribe to the channel, like the videos, find us on Facebook, all the rest. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Stay safe.